Most people think walking is peaceful, grounding, healthy, but for all of us, walking doesn't start like that at all. In fact, it starts as restlessness, pacing, movement without any direction. And in fact, someone commented something that really stuck with me. I do walking, but it's less processing and more of a tick for me. And I think it's incredibly honest, because for a lot of us, walking doesn't start like as awareness. In fact, it starts like a tick, because the body moving because it needs to move and not because it wants to understand something. And the first time you go for a walk, it feels like a tick, and the 10 times you go for a walk, it still feels like a tick, and you're restless and you're pacing, and maybe even you're trying to escape something. But somewhere around the 11th, or who knows, maybe 20th time, something changes, and you're still walking, but now you're watching yourself to walk. And that's the shift, that's the difference. For example, if you're walking with a friend or with a group of people, or when you're walking with someone or walking a dog, you're in a dialogue. You're engaged, you're communicating, and if that dialogue is happening, is in your head, then well, you're still engaged in that conversation. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in that state, walking doesn't really give you much beyond fresh air and movement. It's still really good for you, but you are still inside the situation. But when you walk alone, without headphones, without conversation, without any destination, something else becomes available. You start noticing your breath, you start to feel your body and your feet touching the ground. You can feel that rhythm and the tension you didn't know you were carrying. And only when you feel your body, you realize that you're actually here. I am here. Well, these are two of the most important words. I am here. And that's presence. And once you're present, you begin to notice something else. Thoughts appear, and then they leave, and some might repeat, some fade. And for the first time, you're not inside those thoughts, but you're watching them. And at that very moment, walking becomes very similar to meditation. And so you're no longer fused with the situation, you're no longer drowning in it, and you're standing slightly outside of it, and you become an observer. No judging, no fixing, no running, just observing. And there's a picture, there's a metaphor that really helps me understand this. Imagine you're cooking soup or any other dish you like. So you can't cook soup if you're sitting inside the pot. And no matter how much you think about the ingredients, no matter how intense your emotions are, if you're inside the pot, you have no perspective. And at the very least, to cook anything at all, you need to step out. And only then you can see what's happening. And only then you can decide what goes in and what stays out. So walking alone doesn't magically solve your problems, but it gives you space, it gives you distance. And sometimes that space, that distance, is the difference between reacting automatically and choosing consciously. And that's why I think walking doesn't start as solving anything, doesn't start as healing. It starts just as a tick. But if you stay with it long enough, it becomes a place where you can finally see